Bosnia, Herzegovina. Bosnia. It was part of Austria. Austria officially annexed it just 6 years before the World War I began, but they controlled it for 30 years before that. Slavic nationalists wanted independence here, and they looked to their neighboring country that won their independence from the Ottomans, Serbia. Serbia, who was actually kind of a pariah in Europe, is seen as a very decadent, cruel kingdom. They murdered 2 of their kings in the 6 years before the war, the Serbian people. One by dropping the king from 4 stories on an iron fence. Yeah, they don't like Serbia. But Serbia will look to help the Bosnians who are part of Austria. Obviously trying to incur some kind of unrest and rebellion. Because Serbia wants to make a big, greater Serbia, they called it, which after the war would happen. It's called Yugoslavia, which dissolved in the 1990s. But Serbia, intrigued, helped the Bosnians. The Bosnians get aid, a place to hide, Bosnian rebels within Serbia. And Austria is going to look at Serbia as their biggest threat. If Serbia ferments a rebellion in Bosnia, the whole Austrian Empire could be knocked down. Austria sees that they must do something about Serbia. But the problem with this is the world is interconnected. Russia also eyes this area. Russia is Slavic, and they've allied themselves with the Serbs. This is going to be that powder keg everyone feared. Austria, what are they going to do to try and take care of the Serbs, and how far will that go? Be very quick. Balkan history. Split. Right there. And before you write down culture, I just love this cartoon. Right, the other part of nationalism, remember nationalism when we talked about how you have that intense love of your country and once you create it? And why do you love your country in nationalism? Yeah, I love my country because it's my country, therefore I love my country because it's my country. That I love, that is my country. It's just true. So nationalism is more blind love. Remember, patriotism is that idea that I love my country for what it stands for, the values. Nationalism is my country. And nationalism is a relatively new thing. In fact, you can see it with the French Revolution and industrialization. Well, once countries are created, Germany was a brand new country. 1871, you have the German Empire created. And they needed something to tie these different states together. And they called it culture. And culture was, even though culture has a double meaning here, but in this context, the superiority of German civilization. The superiority of German civilization. And the reason we mention this is, I'll come back to this picture, but Germany was created from a bunch of different kingdoms. Within the German Empire, you have Prussia, but there's also like Bavaria and Saxony. Heck, Bremen was a separate little principality within the kingdom. Bavaria still had a king of Bavaria until 1919. They're in the German Empire, but they're still a king. There was a Duke of Württemberg. And they still have little separate little identities. So they created this kind of mythical German history. Combination of bits of German mythology, bits of kind of Northern European history, and they just made up stuff to give a German identity. And the whole thing was, how do we rally Bavaria to Brandenburg? They don't like each other. So we'll make them something to unify them together. And that's German culture. And what they said is, we're Germans. Germans, there's something special about us. We are better than other places. I mean, look at the great accomplishments of Germany. Speaking about their point of view, let's say 1900. The greatest philosophers in the world were German speakers. The greatest composers, Germans. The greatest scientists, Germans. They're now leading industrial power because we're Germans. The best soldiers, Germans. Germans were the best, hardest working, most diligent. Why? Because we're Germans. We are special. Yes?
Is that how World War II started?
Well, that element of Nazi ideology is actually from pre-World War I German ideology. To make themselves seem better. In fact, they made up a race for themselves. Aryan. You've all heard Aryan? Blonde-haired, blue-eyed Northern Europeans, pure bunk, garbage, not science at all. Wait a minute, this is kind of sciencey, isn't it? Doesn't it sound like what philosophy? This is pure 100% social Darwinism. And everybody is jealous, and we cannot allow them either to destroy our greatness or pollute our blood. Oh yeah, that whole blonde-haired, blue-eyed thing, pure garbage, nothing to do with anything the Germans just made up. But we are special because we're Aryans. Actually, there are Aryans. Aryans come from this part of the world. Imagine the map continuing here. And what is the country of Aryans? Iran. Iran meets Aryan. Now, different parts of the world. Someone from Iran doesn't necessarily look like someone from Norway. Doesn't matter, but it's garbage. But then they say, look at us, aren't we special? There's something great about us. But not only that, everyone's out to get us. They're jealous of us. We are better. We are better because we're Germans, and everybody wants to get us, and we're surrounded by enemies. And if we're surrounded by enemies who are coming to get you, coming to kill you, destroy you, that would justify Germans, that would justify thinking that they're going to have to do what before they're killed? Attack. This is going to lead Germany to think, write this down, preventative war. We need a preventative war. Because we know someday those Slavic Russians are going to come, or the French who have always been jealous of us are going to attack. They're coming for us. We got to get them before they get us. Do they have proof? Yes, because they believe it.
So they're more preventative war because they think they're better than everyone.
Well, and not that they think they're better than everyone else, but they also believe that everybody wants to get them. Now, two things about that. First off, if you go out to other people and say, I'm superior to you, and you're kind of dumb, and you hate me. My response, if someone said that to me, would be like, now I hate you. But part B is this. This is exactly what the Confederacy thought, the Southern states. Remember that? We've got to stop the Republicans. If they get a foothold, they might do something about slavery, or perhaps limit slavery, cause a slave rebellion. We must strike now because we know someday they will attack us. Preventative war is really dangerous because you can pretty much make up any excuse, can't you? Especially if you think you're superior to everybody else, you can say, we can do it because we're just better and everyone hates us. Which also is convenient, you don't have to think that way. Have you ever heard of preemptive? Preemptive means like they're literally massing on the border, they're coming, so you attack right before they do. Preventative is, I just know someday. Someday. And so, Germans thinking about this. This is a postcard for children in Germany in World War I. We know it's during World War I except 1914. Germans will designate the wars by the date the war starts. So World War II is 1939. Franco-Prussian War is 1871, or you're wondering. 1870, I'm sorry. So, there's little Germany. Everyone's out to get them, right? Who's attacking? Who's that? This is countries.
England?
That's England. Yeah, well, it's more like vague Arabia. Now that's a hard one. That's either Belgium or Italy. That's Africa.
That's French.
France? US?
Russia.
Russia. And then that's supposed to be Japan.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. Don't worry about reality. No, that doesn't look like Japan. And why would he be wearing a fez? Don't worry about such details.
What do you write off because never mind, that's not French. That makes sense.
But if you convince yourself or allow yourself to believe that I'm better than everyone else, everyone's jealous of me and they hate me, that will justify doing a lot of things. So, and they already have an emperor who has the withered left arm and is insecure anyways. So Germany's thinking this, and thus we have part B. Oh, sorry, 5. B. That's the third time I've said part B today. Thank you. That's a nice desk. Oh, starting March 1st, you'll be able to pay for your AP exam.
Oh, boy.
I'm gonna make it up.
How do I?
J part. No.
When is it?
It'll be CHS, and I'll tell you at the end of the month. When we get closer, I'll remind you again. Don't
How
worry.
do you ask it?
How do I ask them?
How would you?
My parents would be kind of shocked at that.
Say you were in on.
Mom and Dad, I'm going to try to take that AP exam. I know I should pass it. I'm very good this time.
Say you were in August. How would you ask?
Let's talk about that when we go closer, but think about opportunity for college credit. It's a good opportunity to save a lot of money. It's, you know, you go to at UM, it's 6 credits, MSU, it's 8. That's a lot of money. I think Carroll at 6. That's a lot
But you
of
have to
money.
have before.
Where is it?
You have to have before at Carroll to get credit.
Yeah. You know why?
I know, yeah.
Well, 5 is the arms race. And even though we have these insecurities, for the most part, all the countries get along. There's trade, there's commerce across the borders. Yeah, if you cross the border, you have to go through customs and all that. But is it not open borders, but it's very easy to cross borders? I mean, it's very open. There's no real sense of war outside of the difficulties in the Balkans, Serbia. But everybody's arming like mad. There are 5 great powers in Europe at this time. 5 great powers. No one power is superior in any ways. Germany's probably the most powerful, but it's not, it cannot go at it alone. So obviously if there's 5, you want to be on the side of 3, what are the 5 great powers? Albania, Greece, no. Yeah, Britain, France, Germany, Austria, and Russia. They really wanted to be. Italy so wanted to be, they just weren't there yet. That would be part of Mussolini's argument.
Can you do that one more time? Yeah.
Yes, Albania, Montenegro, Macedonia,
Even though it's not a country.
Andorra is now.
Yeah, but it wasn't then.
I know. Weird, isn't it? And Liechtenstein.
Oh, yeah. Luxembourg.
I've driven across Luxembourg. UK, France, Germany, Austria, Russia. So, there's going to be 2 major alliances. The Triple Alliance by 1914, the Triple Alliance, but in reality, it's Germany and Austria. Germany and Austria now are shackled to each other. In fact, by 1916, Germany would say we're shackled to a corpse. Germany and Austria. It's Austria-Hungary, technically. Okay. Or the Austro-Hungarian Empire, you call it, but everyone called it Austria. Italy joined, but that was more for colonial Mediterranean issues, and Italy and Austria hated each other. You know, this piece of land, this land here, both countries claimed Austria had. Germany knew Italy was never going to be a solid ally they could count on. And as it would turn out, Italy would be the worst type of ally to have. Not only would it, Italy, in fact, you can write this down. The worst ally is one that declares war on you. Yeah. Figure that one out. Yeah, Italy did not enter the war in World War I. In the beginning, they claimed that it was a defensive alliance, and then in 1915, they declared war on Austria and Germany. Much to Italy's chagrin, as it would come to. And so the other alliance would be called the Triple Entente. And the Triple Entente was in reality a dual alliance again, Russia and France. And there's no reason for these 2 countries to get along, actually, except for one simple reason. They both fear Germany. But look at Germany now. They're surrounded. That's part of the reason why Germany needs Austria so bad. And they'll do whatever it takes to help Austria. Britain would join in an understanding with France and Russia. Even though for years they were rivals, or Britain and France fought all the time. Yes?
What was Germany and Austria? What was this alliance called?
Triple alliance.
Triple.
This one is the triple alliance, this one's the triple entente. Entente means understanding. But because of German bullying and power, literally bullying, Britain felt they had no choice but to get closer to France. Especially, they can envision if Germany got here, jump across, 20 miles of the Channel, and Britain has no real army. Powerful navy, no army. They'd be in real trouble. Two more alliances we have to mention. One I mentioned before, Russia and Serbia had in essence an alliance. More than anything else, they're Slavs, but also Austria. They don't like Austria. Britain saw themselves as the protector of Belgium neutrality. Belgium was a neutral country created back in 1830 as kind of a buffer, and even though all the great powers claimed they defended Belgian neutrality, by its location across the Channel, Britain really saw we cannot allow, more and more, we can't allow Germany to be right there. This will be a big deal down the road. So those are the alliances. And these are just things on a piece of paper. It doesn't mean you have to go end up having millions of your people killed and destroy your country and our empire. These are just simply, we make an alliance, but countries still make decisions. But the thing is, you have leaders who make these political decisions, and they can posture and talk about honor, but they didn't realize what was going on with the arms race. These armies were growing at rates that nobody could imagine. Mass armies with modern equipment. Artillery that was more deadly than anything they'd ever seen before. Artillery would be the biggest killer in the wars. 90% of the casualties would be by modern artillery. High exploding shells, the shrapnel ripping apart bodies, literally. But the people making the decisions didn't understand that. But the symbol of the arms race, we have to mention, because we see things like this, and there's talk of an arms race going in the South China Sea right now, so we might be living this little fun. It's a ship called the Dreadnought. Actually, the ship, the British made an incredibly powerful battleship they called the Dreadnought. And since it was so much more advanced than any other ship, they named all future of these battleships Dreadnoughts until after World War I. And that's the first Dreadnought. It was twice as big as other ships of that class, over 20,000 tons. It had, just to give you an idea of the size, it had, over its turrets, 150 millimeters of armor. So we're talking about that much armor, just steel plate. Eventually that would be doubled on super dreadnoughts. They had 12 11-inch guns that could fire 20,000 yards. You couldn't make anything of that. But these huge guns, it was fast. In fact, every other ship in every other navy was obsolete once they made this. Remember the Great White Fleet that the US sailed around? Already obsolete because of this. Britain would eventually make 38 of these. All that wealth, technology. I mean, these were the technological marvels of the day. That would be a super dreadnought with 15-inch guns, 350 millimeters of armor, go 25 knots. And they're just the farm, just a remarkable ship. In World War II, Italian frogmen would knock that out. What are frogmen?
Hybrids.
Yeah, what? Hybrid, half man, half frog, yeah. Fascist science. That's what they called the first school.
How did they knock that?
Yeah.
Huh?
How did they knock that out?
How they knock it out?
Yeah.
They swam into Alexandria Harbor in Egypt. Secret mission to carry mines. They put mines in the bottom of the boat. I just want to say frog. So make sure you tell everybody, that hybrid frogmen. So the problem for Britain was this. Germany started building them too. That's a German dreadnought. And when Germany started building dreadnoughts, that becomes a direct threat to Britain. And even though Germany would never have, well, they'd have less than half the number Britain did. They had a huge army. And now, this is going to push Britain to be closer to France and Russia. They would spend all this money on that. Now, actually, German dreadnoughts in many ways were better because they didn't have to have as long a range, because they just basically stayed in the North Sea. This, more than any other single thing, would help lead to Britain and entering World War I on the side of the Allies and make it a world war. Here's an American dreadnought. There's actually 3 American dreadnoughts. That's the Nevada. That would be sunk at Pearl Harbor in 1941. They bring it back up and fight again. The Americans built some, but not near as many as the British or the Germans. The Japanese built some. France had to commit every single thing they had to ground forces because Germany had a bigger population. Russia, not too late. Austria would build 1. Britain was actually making a couple dreadnoughts for the Ottoman Empire. The war began, and the British just kept them. And the point is, think about all this money they spent on these super weapons. All the prestige that went with them. When war began, both sides were scared to use them, because what if they're sunk? There'd be a few small battles and only one major battle of dreadnoughts. In the entire war, one big battle, because both sides were scared to use them. That shows kind of the folly of the arms race. You build these weapons. You spend so much money, so much prestige in these things, and then you're afraid to use them because you might get them sunk. And think of the money and wealth that goes away. And so for the most of the war, the mighty dreadnoughts sat in the harbor waiting for that big battle. Remember Alfred Thayer Mahan? Mahan said there'll be a big battle, and they waited for it, and it never happened. The war ended. In fact, Germany would end up scuttling, sinking their own dreadnoughts, rather than give them to the Allies. And that's kind of how the arm race went. They think, okay, well, it's World War I. Boy, were they stupid. They could do the same thing. And not just the 100 ICBMs. There's reasons besides the great expense why they're not used. But we have a $400 million plane called the B-2 stealth bomber. You think we'd ever use that in a place where it could get shot down? Not a chance. Especially since they don't maneuver, and if they actually see them, they're really easy to shoot down. It's a big flying wing. They can't turn. When the United States invaded Iraq in 2003, we didn't use those. Because even though Iraq had virtually no military, there was still a shot. They could shoot one down. Same with the F-22 fighters for $250 million a piece. Didn't want to waste one of those, so we used old planes. Same thing now. We are still bombing Syria. We're not using those. Because every once in a while they make a show up. See, we're using these planes, but never, because they're so expensive. And nobody wants to lose their toys. We'll come back to the nuclear weapons. That's why whenever I see a football game and they'll, like in the Super Bowl, they had, not this year's Super Bowl, last year they had 3 B-2 stealth bombers fly over. And I was like, ugh, those things are just lots of problems with those planes. But they're really expensive. So, but the big thing was, when you come right down to what mattered were the armies. And that's where we get to this term called mobilization. Because now, as population grows, technology improves, this is the era of mass armies. And mobilization literally means twofold. First off, calling up your reserves to fight, getting them in uniform. But the second most important thing about mobilization is gearing your entire country for war. Everything for war. Because mobilization does not just mean calling men out. And let me explain why. Let me explain why. You're like, we have no choice. Well, you don't have a choice. This is August 4th, 1914. So that was the day Britain declared war on Germany, and it shows basically the size of the army. Now, don't worry about these ones because they didn't enter the war yet. But Germany, its army was about 850,000 men, huge army. When war began, 4.5 million. France, with a population only 2/3 the size of Germany, could put 4 million men in uniform. Just an amazing task by France. An incredible effort. But what? Remember I said you're everything for war? Every country in Europe except for Britain had conscription. Conscription, we call that what?
Draft.
A draft. Remember the draft riots in the Europe draft riots and Civil War? This is the way life was. This is the way life was. Every young man, when you're 19 in Germany, everyone followed the German model for the most part. You're in the army for a year. You're trained, you're drilled, you know how to fight, you know how to follow orders. Okay, there are professional officers, but then all young men, when you're out of the army after the year, you're not out until you're 40. And you're in the reserves. And once a year, you train for 2 weeks. And so if there's war, and they call out, and make the mobilization call, in every town, all the young men will come. So when he said the entire economy, think about that for a second. Now you have people leaving their jobs, leaving the factories, leaving their occupations. So that means basically the entire country, every business is going to be taken over by whom?
Government.
Specifically the army, but yes, the military will take it all over, which is the government. Not only that, how do you get the men from the little towns to the frontier to fight? The entire transportation system of the country will be taken over by the military. The smartest young men, in fact, as boys in Germany, they'd be recruited to go to the military academy. And there they would learn train tables. And the smartest one would learn how to get the entire rail network, the most elaborate in the world by 1914, to get troops to the front. And if Germany's doing that, that means that every other country in Europe has to do it to catch up. And so they just started building more and more. In fact, that's all they would do is work on mobilization, work on drilling. Because let's say now, France and Germany go to war. So they start with their smaller armies, and then war, boom, we mobilize. All the men are mustered, they come. Who has the advantage? They both declare war, they both at the same time say we're mobilizing. Who has the advantage? Who has the advantage? The first one. Whoever mobilizes the quickest can attack their enemy before they're ready. And everybody knows this. So think about it for a second. Everybody knows it. So France is not just going to mobilize. If France mobilizes, that means they're going to attack. Mobilization means war. A lot of politicians did not understand that. They thought, okay, mobilize, we'll talk mobilization as some kind of political effort. No, the generals knew. If we mobilize, we take over the country and we go to war. Because if we don't, our enemy will do it to us. So we can't afford a second to wait. So everybody in Europe, this is what we got to get. It's not a hair trigger. By 1914, in fact, people didn't even realize it. You know, they think with their normal life and working and just surviving or whatever it might be, when the entire country, all it would take is a one phone call. Boom. And it's a full-scale war. That's how they work. Your whole life has been on a hair trigger. A little more extreme in my life when I was your age. How long do you think it would take to launch those 100 ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles, that are in central Montana? How long would it take? 5 minutes. If they really screwed up. Yeah. They would say within 3 minutes, every missile will be gone in the country. 3. Oh, yeah. And it was, and so you think about it for a second. We got to fire them now because we don't want them to be still in the silos and the enemy hit them. So we're on a hair trigger. Even though technically you could argue, you know, it's not like when I was your age, we had the Cold War with the Soviets. No, we still have that issue. Hair trigger. Think about it. One mistake, one screw up, and the world is over.
Oh my god.
Just wait and see what's right.
So, let's get back to this. Germany's outnumbered though. Okay, the Russians might not have enough men for all their soldiers, or not enough men, not enough rifles for their soldiers, but they have nearly 6 million men and the French have 4 million. You see why Austria was so important for Germany. They needed this army with Austria had real trouble having all these different nationalities in their army. Yeah. But if Germany fights tomorrow, they get a reprieve. Huh? It's 893. 993. We're almost at 8,000, aren't we? Wow, the book, I mean, we're nearly done.
There's more words than the ones
Well, remember what I told you. Once we became an empire, we got war all the time.
That's true. Okay, that's what I did. I was like,
Yeah, because central power is what they call them when the war began, and then the central power would be this war.
okay, yes.
And most everyone else will be allies with their
The book. In the
Remind me.
chapters, but then in the glossary it goes.
Are you sure?
Really remind me again all the time.
Okay.
Oh, there you are. Oh.
How did it go?
Oh, they
Straight
just
to the
they just stare at you like
I'll say something like entertaining or like something that they might want to get into.
You gotta remember they're sophomores.
Right.
But you went and talked to them. Thank you for doing that.
Because it's just like me, myself, and I just at the front room just
Actually,
talking.
I recruited Red to come. He's in government, so I was like, just come with me.
I'm sitting here by myself just talking. And it's like, what is school?
Yeah. Sometimes they really get into it, sometimes they don't.
Were you in English?